the CRTC, they don't want to moderate content, and it's not about regulations. It's just about the money, and then the
disruptive.
America that I fought for.
weird thing to happen. I hate to be the coal in your stocking, but meet the new boss, same as the old boss, because that's what's happening, folks. Change is not happening. So Chris Erickson says important. The past 48 hours, both C-63, the Online Harms Act, and Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act, has been brought to the forefront. Carney is moving quickly. And he highlights 2 National Post articles. One that says Carney is hinting that his Liberal government will bring back some iteration of Trudeau's tyrannical, there's no other word for it, Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. And ex-environmental minister will now be serving the implementation of the Online Streaming Act. Oh, thank God. Thank God. I can think of no better person to deal with tyranny than a corrupted criminal like Stephen Gilbay. Stephen Gilbo. My apologies. But I can think of no better person. The guy that embezzled money through the Green Slush Fund, the guy who's lied to you, the hypocrite criminal that should be locked away in bars. Thank God we have someone that responsible to now tell us what we can and cannot say online, what content we're allowed to view. Thank God we have the adults in the room. As some people say, the adults are back. So Prime Minister Mark Carney cannot be trusted with our charter-protected right to free expression. The man has been clear. During the election campaign, Carney spoke scornfully of our most essential freedom, our speech, from which all of our other freedoms flow. Carney has hinted that his Liberal government will bring back some iteration of Trudeau's tyrannical, there is no other word for it, Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, which was killed when the former Prime Minister prorogued Parliament this January. You will recall that this is now defunct legislation will have granted judges the ability to mete out life sentences for hate speech. That's right. Life sentences for hate speech. There's convicted killers. There's serial killers and murderers and people that blow up buildings that get less of a jail sentence than hate speech in Canada. They want to make it a life sentence for what you can or cannot say on the internet. This is like the Maple Reich here, that they want to create this censorship platform in disguise of protecting people and protecting young kids as a means to give life sentences to people and throw them into prison if they engage in wrongthink, if they think outside the box, if they're critical of the establishment, if they're not saying what is politically correct. How crazy that is. How crazy that is. And how crazy that hate has become illegal. I'm allowed to hate things. I'm allowed to hate things. I hate cancer. I hate infectious diseases. I hate terminal diseases. Am I not supposed to hate those because they might have feelings? How about Nazis? I hate Nazis. I hate fascism. Am I not allowed to hate that because, oh my God, a Nazi might cry on stage? I'm allowed to hate things. You're allowed to hate things. That's what makes us human. And this legislation would have created a government digital safety commission to police Canadian speech while impose life-destroying fines upon those whose speech was deemed hateful by our government censors. This is beyond Adolf Hitler Third Reich crap. This is beyond this. It is frightening legislation, but not apparently to Prime Minister Mark Carney. Of course not to a central banker. In April, At two of Carney's rallies in Ontario, he announced his government's proposed plan to tackle crime and improve public safety by criminalizing speech. I ask people that are online that are okay with the censorship, because I know people that are okay with this. They want full censorship because there's all this hate speech and wrong people, and oh my God, someone might read something and they might think differently. Oh my God, we're encouraging people to think. I tell those people, name one time at any point in human history that censorship and jailing people for information has ever improved society. Name one point in human history that censorship flourished the needs of people in society. You can't, because it's impossible. It's impossible. Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all of its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act, said Carney. You mean like the same government that wants to gender mutilate children? You mean the same children that wants to line them up for experimental vaccinations? The same government that wants to restrict parental rights of children and give them to the government so we don't, mispronoun them. That's not harmful to children, but online speech that children shouldn't be on these social media platforms to begin with. Just because we're having a conversation, that's what needs to be criminalized. Sound familiar? It should. We have heard this before. Carney is using the same tactic of his predecessor. It was Justin Trudeau who first attempted to manipulate Canadians with fear for our children's safety as a means to sneak in this repressive anti-free speech legislation. So they keep using children as the excuse for this. Now we got to save the kids. It's about the children. And they use the story of Amanda Todd, who is the young girl, the young teenager who self-deleted herself after being cyberbullied, after being harassed online. I think it was in Halifax, I do believe. It was somewhere on the Atlantic coast. And they used that as the excuse, as the bait to trick people into the censorship. Well, the interesting part about that is cyberbullying and verbal assault is already in criminal code. You don't need this. We don't need this. It's already a crime to harass people. It's already a crime to send death threats to someone. It's already a crime to verbally assault or sexually assault them or abuse minors. Why do we need this legislation if it's already in the criminal code? You know why? Because it's nothing to do with children. It has to do with the government. It has to do with the fact that they want to control the information, because when they control the information, they control the population. Does it sound familiar? Because that's happened numerous times in history, and people fought back. But surprisingly, no one's fighting back about this. No elbows up person is fighting for this, because they don't care. They're for this. They think it's great. I don't have to read other people's thoughts. I get to be in my safe space. Consider then Prime Minister Trudeau's words from a February 2024 news conference in Edmonton. We know and everyone can agree that kids are vulnerable online to hatred, to violence, to being bullied, to seeing and being affected by terrible things online. And we need to do a better job as a society to protect our kids online, Trudeau said, 1 week before tabling Bill C-63. Again, the same government that wants to mutilate children and cut off their body parts and restrict parents' rights to raise their children. After everything. Oh, we got to protect the kids by doing what? By cracking down on posts and memes and jailing them for life. And now, back to Carney last month, new online platforms have created new threats, including and perhaps especially for children. And as much as we as parents want to protect our kids, we can't always be there. We can't always be looking over our kids' shoulders to see what they're doing or what they're exposed to online. And so while protecting children is first and foremost a parent's responsibility, it is also a collective responsibility. No, it's still the parent's responsibility. The parents of said child have the ultimate say. Governments can say what they want. Other people can say what they want. But unless you are their parent, their legal by blood parent, they get the ultimate say. They get the ultimate say. And if they're so worried about kids being exposed to harmful things online, wouldn't it be the parent's responsibility to put, trackers on or restrict certain websites? How many times have I seen programs on the computer or little tips here and there where you can deny access to certain websites that your child is on? You can put parental locks on things. You can put parental locks on cable, for God's sakes. You can do it online, too. Why are they not just enforcing that? Because it's not about kids. It's not about kids. And with the support of Canadians, my government will act to protect children online and bring those who seek to harm them to justice. We will first introduce legislation to protect children from online exploitation and extortion. And considering the fact that Mark Carney's wife grew up with Ghislaine Maxwell. Think of that. Using Trudeau's old manipulation tactic, Carney has found an additional excuse to promote and justify government censorship. He has revealed at his April rally in Hamilton one of the issues we're dealing with: misogyny, anti-Semitism, hatred, conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories, because that's harming kids. That's harming kids. I cannot tell you the amount of times that a child has burst into tears and felt threatened because some guy thought the earth was flat. Oh my God. Conspiracy theories are hurting kids. How about the conspiracy of Russiagate? Does that harm kids? Or 9/11? How the Tower 7 just collapsed on its own? That's not harming kids. That's a conspiracy. That a tower just fell on its own from hundreds of miles away from the Twin Towers. How about the JFK assassination? Again, this has nothing to do with children. This has nothing to do with children. It's all a front. It's all a lie. They're actually exploiting children by proposing legislation to help children. That's what's so damning about this. They're actually exploiting kids through this process. This sort of pollution that's online, that washes our virtual borders from the United States. And that's fine. I could take the conspiracy and all of that. No, you can't. Why do you think you're proposing this? Obviously you can't. Obviously your government can't, which is why you're enforcing this. I could take blah, blah, blah. But the more serious thing is when it affects how people behave in our society. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Now we're getting the manifesto out. It's about behavior. It's about how we control people's minds and behavior control. Remember, Mark Carney said that in his book. He said that in his book before he became prime minister. How Canadians have a toxic problem and they need behavior control. They need modification. Well, this is it. This is it. When Canadians are being threatened to go to community centers, places of worship, or their schools, said Carney. Much like Trudeau first weaponized child safety to push for censorship, so too is Carney is using Canada's despicable rise in anti-Semitism hate crimes since October 7th attack on Israel to try to convince Canadians, blah, 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 censorship online. And again, if this is proven fact, where are all the criminal records? Where are the police accounts? Why isn't the RCMP releasing a statement on this? They keep telling us that anti-Semitism is on the rise, but as you've seen, all the cases in America, all the cases across the world, that anti-Semitism is the boy that cried wolf. They're using it to masquerade what really is anti-Semitism, which is a genocide in Palestine. Those are Semites that they're going after. Anyway, so here is Mark Carney at that rally, announcing that, hey, remember that tyrannical Justin Trudeau where he was going to restrict free speech and I'm going to come in and change all that? Well, I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back because we still got to deal with child safety, the children. Think of the children. And just openly announcing this tyrannical censorship reign crackdown right in front of the nation. Listen to this.
Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
You know, he's right. He's definitely sounding more European. Because that's what they're doing in the UK. That's what they're doing in Germany. Germany laughs about this. Ha ha ha! We get to jail people if they think wrong on the internet? Ha 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 ha! That's so great. Then we can just flood the streets with all the criminals that are in jail. You know, the murderers, the thugs, the violent offenders. Just throw them out in the streets and then arrest the people that are keyboard warriors. Ha 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 ha! So great. So here
what
is the ex-minister of the environment and corporate criminal, the political criminal, Stephen Gilbert, who embezzled money through the Green Slush Fund, has embezzled money to his own corporation, and violates so many ethics laws, far, far greater than Justin Trudeau. He's still in office, by the way. They haven't kicked him out. He hasn't resigned. He's still part of Carney's crew because, you know, change. And here's him. This is back in 2021, I do believe, where the former environmental minister is now on CPAC telling this anchor here the importance of why we need to restrict people's ability to access content like mine, like other podcasts, like Jasmine Lane, like Elevate podcasts, like Moose on the Loose, like all these other podcasts that provide critical material. He's saying why we need to control. Listen.
is a concern about user-generated content. There was a clause saying that that would not be touched. That clause was removed. The groundswell of concern is about something called user-generated content, people posting things. If I post something that's described as a program, if I post it, you're saying there's never going to be any scrutiny, anything that...
So, when they first proposed this act, this is the Online Censorship Act on the internet, the Online Streaming Act. When they first proposed this, they made it official, the first reading of the bill, they made it official that they weren't going to touch user-generated content, meaning internet programs like this. They weren't going to touch it whatsoever. They were not going to touch podcasts. It was only for broadcasters. It was only for corporations. It wasn't for online generated small business podcasts, whatever. That has been since a lie. That was the front to convince Canadians to get on board with this. Meanwhile, they were cooking this behind closed doors that they want to control user-generated content. Why? Because user-generated content is their greatest competitor. It's the greatest competitor towards the CBC, CTV, Global, City News, the National Post, Toronto Star, you name it. We're their competitors. And they can't stand that, so they got to find a way to entice people in to the censorship bill that they promoted as promoting Canadian content Oh, we're not going to touch user-generated content. We're trying to promote Canadian content as a means to destroy the competition. And here's Stephen Gilbert lying right to your face about this. This is him gaslighting this.
That will affect that.
No, I think the concern is that there are people who believe that there should be no laws when it comes to the internet. We should not regulate Facebook or YouTube or Google, whether it's on to ensure that they pay their fair share on cultural content, or that when it comes to hate speech and incitement to violence and terrorism, we see what happens if there's no control in the U.S. on Capitol Hill on January 6th,
So not only did he just lie to you and not tell you that there's already laws in place to prevent violent rhetoric on Facebook, but he's using January 6th as an example. Oh, remember that thing that happened in Washington, D.C., miles away from my office in a totally different country? Well, that's why here in Canada, we got to silence you. This is just insane. This is just insane. Just like how they want to, do a gun buyback program when there was a shooting down in Texas. Texas! That's literally another country and then some. Oh, there's a school shooting in Texas. Oh my God. America should do something about it. Well, here in Canada, we're going to siphon away hunting guns. But don't worry, we're then going to give that to Ukraine so actual Nazis can go slaughter each other. This is how disgusting these people are. This is how disgusting. This man should be behind bars after everything he's done, after everything he's been caught doing. And they still keep him in circles. Why? Because he plays to the global establishment. He plays to their agenda of control. All this isn't part of. They're trying to control people.
So those, I see those, I recognize that this is a position that people have. I disagree with it. I think that there needs to be regulation for these web giants, just like we have regulations.
Right.
For
We're not
every
right.
other kinds of
but we're not
industry.
Yeah. Oh no, that's granted, and we all agree. We're agreeing on the basic principles. But why?
No, I don't think so.
No,
a lot of people
okay, but
who
no,
are
I'm
criticizing
in
this
terms of my
bill
question though. In terms of my question though, you've clarified saying you're going to make it. Your changes are going to make it crystal clear that
no, it's already there in the bill.
Commercial content would be commercial content would be.
So there's him saying, it's already in the bill. It's already in the bill. After you lied to Canadians that we're not going to touch user-generated content. No. It's already on the bill. It's already on the bill. It's part 83, upside down. You got to read it backwards under some sunlight. This is how they trick Canadians. When you actually read bills, which a lot of people don't, because frankly, it's boring. That's why I don't even read bills. But when this first came about and I actually looked and read the bill and we had it on this show, I don't know if it's still in, maybe it's part of the original channel that got kicked off because we talked about COVID. Yeah, again, just to show you how they didn't touch user-generated content. I lost my original channel. I lost years of work for this channel and all the subscribers, all the videos, gone. So, excuse me that I don't believe crap from this government, from this establishment, when they say they're not going to touch user-generated content, when they're promoting Canadian media. Give me a frickin' break. Give me a frickin' break. After what I've been through, after what other people have been through, they don't want anything to do with promoting Canadian content. That is just a farce to make you believe that censorship is important. And I tell people that are on board with this, sadly, they're on board with this, name a time in human history that censorship, going down this tyrannical path of censorship, actually improves society. Name one time. You can't. You can't. So here's another piece here. This is, again, the master criminal. This is him on CBC. This is him as the heritage minister because, once you get framed as the environmental minister, you just transfer positions. You don't actually resign. You don't get criminal prosecution. You're not held to contempt. No journalist is going to touch you, just like they did with Chrystia Freeland, just like anybody in government here. They just transfer positions. So now the heritage minister, here's him on CBC News now defending. So as this bill is being implemented, after he just lied to you about how he's not going to touch user-generated content, here's him just telling you that it's happening and why you should be on board with it.
So it's about spending obligations, spending requirements. It's not about content moderation.
So I'm going to flip the question for a moment here, Minister, because...
Oh, it's about spending. It's about it's making sure that the CBC gets their money and Bell Media gets the subsidies and Rogers, and it's about the money. Not actually about controlling information, even though it's already done. Can this guy be more of a heinous liar? Can this guy be more of a heinous liar? Again, this guy should be behind bars. Should be criminally prosecuted to the highest degree. And all he has done is transfer from job to job and going on to these media rounds, lying to you. Lying to you. Directly to your face.
It was important enough to put that exclusion there in the first place. Now it's gone. Why was it important in the first place to put it there?
We're not interested. I mean, it's not what the bill is about.
I mean, I hear you saying you're not interested, but there literally was an exclusion that was put in the original iteration of that bill, the thing that was reviewed, and then it got to committee, and bingo, bango, bongo, the exclusion is gone. So why was it important to put it there in the first place, such that now the committee has removed it?
Well, I mean, the committee decides what they want. The bill, first of all, the committee hasn't even finished doing its work in terms of the amendments. So we don't have a full picture of what the bill will look like when it comes back to the House of Commons for third reading.
Would you like to see the exclusion back in there?
It's not necessary. I mean, so
if it's not necessary, why was it there in the first place?
Well, you know, we've worked on this for many months. We came up with what we thought would be the best possible bill, but bill can always be perfected. They will be amended, and it's not the purpose of the bill. So it's not required to be there because, I mean, this idea that the CRTC would start doing content moderation has no basis in reality. In its 40 years of existence, it has never done that. It doesn't have the power to do that.
Until now, which is the whole purpose of this bill. And every time he sounds like Woody Allen, that's when you know he's lying. But the CRTC, they don't want to moderate content, and it's not about regulations. It's just about the money, and then the bill itself hasn't really passed through the Parliament yet. It's not even through the Senate, and this is a man trapped in so many lies that he's crowded himself into a box. He's being cornered by the CBC. Which, I gotta say, the CBC has gone downhill extremely, but there's still good moments. There's still some good moments of, actual journalism, and this is one of them, where literally just asking basic questions owns this guy. But it's not about moderating content. All that guy had to say, this what was it, David Common, all he had to say was, well, why was it in the bill originally? Why did you put an amendment that you weren't going to moderate content and then take it off the bill and then going on television lying to people that's back on the bill? Because it's a lie. You are going to regulate content. You want to go after independent online media because it's the direct competitor. Because we're critical. Because we actually take the establishment account, like this buffoon who should be locked away in prison and not doing media rounds lying to you like Woody Allen describing a movie. It's just not the time. It's not the time right now. I just want you to know that we're not there to regulate online content. The bill has in the past. This is a serial liar that should be locked away in prison and is exploiting Canadians and exploiting children to pass this. And here's to wrap this up. I thought I had this in because they talk about safety being the key issue. Oh, we got to be concerned about people's safety. Well, you remember in the debate, Mark Carney and the Liberal Party threatened their conservative opponent in a riding. And Pierre Poilievre brought this up in the debate. And as Mark Carney is telling that Canadians need to restrict their online access for safety, think of the children, think of Canadian safety. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't prosecute. He doesn't go after that MP for threatening their political opponent during a campaign. So you tell me the severity of this and how this should be criminally prosecuted.
One of your candidates, sir, actually said that he wanted to send a political opponent to China under a bounty threatening his life or imprisonment, and you refused to get rid of him. Now, it might have something to do with the fact that you went to China not long ago to get a $250 million loan for your company. But the reality is you refused to stand up for a Canadian who was being threatened by a foreign government. And I was able to speak freely on that matter because I refused the gag order that the Liberal government attempted to impose on me.
Well,
So, are you not concerned about that safety? That's a direct threat of violence right there. That's a direct threat of violence. You're threatening your opponent to send them to a foreign country and get bounties after them. That doesn't that require prosecution? Doesn't that require a life sentence under this bill, under the Safety Act? Oh, of course not, because it's not about safety. It's not about children. It's not about safety. It's about control. That's all this is. It's about controlling the narrative so you can control the population. Because knowledge is power, folks, and they want to keep you dumb. They want to keep you out of the light. They want to keep you away from information that's critical to every one of us so we become more knowledgeable about the situation that we're in. Because just like that report of the RCMP secret report, if Canadians knew how screwed this country is and how their federal government continues to abuse them, there would be civil unrest. There would be civil unrest. And the only reason there hasn't is because Canadians are still in the dark about this. They're not being told the correct information. They're being lied to at every point in turn. And they're trying to silence information like this and this channel and other people's channels from getting that information out. Free speech is a principle. And whether you like the speech or not, you have to defend it. You have to defend it because if they go after a person that you disagree with, then chances are they're going to come after you. That's what happens. You defend free speech for everybody or you don't defend it at all. There's no cookie cuttering around it.